What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Prior to Stage 4 of the Overwatch League starting, people, including some of the pros, were claiming that Brigitte was far too overpowered, that she was going to be a must-pick and would absolutely, completely destroy the meta and all the games. Except, that's not happening. That's not happening at all. Right now, we're in the first week of Stage 4 for the Overwatch League, and at this moment, every single team has played at least one set. That may not seem like a lot, but when you break it down, that turns out to be 24 separate matches between all the different teams. So that's more than enough to talk about the point that I want to get to. And that is, Brigitte is not this overwhelming force in the Overwatch League that people were claiming she was going to be. Despite all the Chicken Little sky is falling complaining, Brigitte is actually towards the lower end of the pick rate. And this is on the most powerful version of Brigitte that we have, because right now on the PTR, there are a couple of nerfs. They increase the cooldown for the shield bash, and they also reduce the effectiveness of the ultimate. But right now in the Overwatch League, it is the fully powered, unnerfed Brigitte, and yet she's just not being used. And I know some people are going to say, well, there's a difference between the competitive ladder and the Overwatch League. And you're right, except probably in the wrong direction. Because who do you think is likely to use an overpowered character more? Let's say, for the sake of argument, a character is genuinely overpowered. Using the character gives you a significant advantage over the other team if they're not using one, and you just, in general, have a higher chance of winning the match. Do you think it's the person who's just a random guy on the competitive ladder who's going to gain or lose, let's say, 25 SR? Or do you think the person who is a pro in a tournament with real money on the line is more likely to use an overpowered character? Because for the Overwatch League Season 1, the prize pool is $3.5 million. So which one of those is more likely to use a quote-unquote overpowered character? It's gonna be the pro. When real money, especially that much money, is on the line, the pros don't care if a character is boring. They don't care if a character is, quote, cheap, or it's overpowered, or whatever. They're there to win because $3.5 million is a lot of money. If you recall, when Mercy got her rework, she was genuinely overpowered, and this was represented by the pros who wanted to win, because her pick rate was somewhere around 97-98%. She was in every single match without fail, and only on extreme rare occasion was she swapped out for something else. So that was a case where it was an overpowered character, the pros want to make money, so they used her to win those matches. But with Brigitte, that's just not the case. So after 24 matches, what is Brigitte's pick rate? Well, it's definitely not above 90%. It's not above 80, not 70, 60, 50, or even 40. It's 38.5%. Now, that's not terrible, but it's definitely not the overpowered, game-dominating monster that people were claiming it was gonna be. Of those 24 matches, 10 of them, Brigitte wasn't used at all. 9 of them, one of the teams used her, and 5 of those matches, both teams used her. But there's another thing about that, is the usage in the games was not from start to finish. Usually, Brigitte was only used for a couple minutes, and then they would swap off of her. Now, I know some might say, well, it's the first week, so that's why the teams aren't using it. But that doesn't make any sense, because again, when Mercy got reworked, the pro teams immediately started using her because she was that powerful. And it goes to reason that if Brigitte was also very powerful, they would be using her in every single game as well. Another thing I heard was that, oh, because the character is new, the pro players don't have enough experience. That's just not true. That's laughable. Ever since Brigitte was released about 2.5 months ago, the pro players have been practicing with that character quite extensively. In private games, in quick play, in scrims, all sorts of practice, that sort of deal. Trust me, those pro players have a very large amount of experience with the character already. That is not why they're not using her. So why is it then that Brigitte is so heavily used in the competitive ladder and not so much used in the Overwatch League? And it's quite simple. The pros are going to use the characters that they need to win, and the people in the competitive ladder play the thing that's new, that's interesting, that they like, or that they just find fun to play. That's pretty much it. Every time a new character gets released and put in the competitive ladder, you're going to see a huge surge in the pick rate of that character, and over time it begins to drop off. Additionally, in the competitive ladder, most people play for themselves and not for the team. So even if a character isn't really working out in that particular situation, they don't switch off of it because either they don't realize that the character isn't working, or they just don't care. Whereas in the pro scene, the players are always going to switch to whatever their coach or their captain needs them to switch to, because again, the goal is to win, and again, $3.5 million is a lot of money. The point of all this is to show that Brigitte is not the incredibly overpowered character that people like to claim she is. Because if the character was genuinely overpowered, the pros would be using her in every single match, just like they did with the reworked Mercy. But instead, we see maps where Brigitte isn't used at all because she's just not that effective in that particular map type. We also see other characters being used that are hard counters to Brigitte, forcing Brigitte to get switched off to something else. And these are things that the pros are doing, but that a lot of people on the competitive ladder just are unwilling to do. There are counters. In fact, I made an entire video showing all the different hero counters for Brigitte. You can go and check that out if you want. But the point is, the character isn't as strong as people think it is. It's just they're unwilling to change what they've been used to in order to adjust and counter Brigitte. Something that I often see, and it's not just with Brigitte, it's with a lot of characters, is someone will take their own personal frustration that they have when dealing with another hero, and they confuse that with, oh, that character must be overpowered. Just because you're having difficulties dealing with the character doesn't mean it's overpowered. And in this case, as we can very clearly see, Brigitte is simply not being used nearly as much as people thought she was, and again, this goes back to all the other reasons that I mentioned earlier in the video. So tell me what you guys think about the low pick rate that Brigitte has in the Overwatch League. Let me know down below. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out my Discord server. Follow me on Twitch and Twitter. The links for that stuff are down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault. Also, special thanks to all my Patreon supporters for helping to make this all possible. If you'd like to see what kind of cool rewards you can get for supporting the channel, check the links on screen and down below.